I started eating small. That's my favorite thing.
Hey, how are you, Abby? I'm going to steal that one from you. Thank you. Don't spiral.
I've been thinking of calling Johnson's birthday. All day. Yeah. That picture that Anthony posted?
Calling the meeting to order. Our first presenter tonight is student trustee Brooke Morrow. Is Faith with you, Brooke? Oh, there's Faith. Okay. So our first presenters are the student trustees on the most recent board meeting, which was last week. And this will be Brooke's last presentation to us as she is the graduating senior on the board. So, welcome.
Awesome. So thank you guys for having us. This was my last board meeting, so I don't know if you guys saw, but I was literally like sobbing at the end of it. So I figured I would address that right up front before anybody tries to give me crap for that. So starting off here with the Joint Committee on Thursday, we had a student housing update. And I know at the last Student Senate meeting that we came to, the Director of Housing was here as well. So it was kind of cool to see the overlap of what he had to say. We had a Beaver Creek update, which is exciting because I think, Faith, you're working on this initiative as well, right? Basically just where we are with that. The College of Engineering is moving forward with partnerships. That includes businesses, so companies, things like that, individuals, donors, alums, and other universities in that area as well, trying to build those connections.
Okay, on the other side for the joint. And I think we missed maybe one other slide for joint. Or perhaps not.
Nope.
Moving on to governance, we had a presentation by Faculty Senate where faculty went over one of their new resolutions that was passed surrounding faculty and tenure. Basically what's going on right now is the university has moved away from a plan that hires faculty who are only on a 10-year track to other sorts of group 2 and group 3 or group 4 sorts of faculty. What Faculty Senate would like to see is a return toward the importance of hiring group 1 faculty. And this has to do with research initiatives and just faculty who are overall connecting to different parts of the university, which is their own research and being able to give back to the community and work with students. One of the new things that they were considering promoting is considering a teaching intensive tenure faculty line. This is because usually in the faculty tenure lines, it's about 40% you're doing your research, 40% you're teaching, and 20% giving back in some meaningful way to the community. This would switch it over to maybe a 60 or 70% teaching focus for those faculty members who are really encouraged by working with students in a classroom rather than working with students in a research way. Moving out of that, we had an update from the Graduate College. So this was now interim dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Joe Shields, or also he works with a lot of our diversity and expansion. He presented about the Graduate College. Basic updates from that are graduate enrollment is increasing, and mainly the increases are on online and non-traditional programs. So these center mainly around like our nursing program, which is very popular online, and then also programs for non-traditional students on our regional campuses. Looking at graduate student support, a little bit more about this. We were able to present to Graduate Student Senate before this past meeting. We'll give a little overview for you, but we have the Graduate Writing Center, Professional Development, the Student Expo, which is something that centers around 3-minute presentations. If you get a chance to go, I would highly recommend it because you get to find out a lot about interesting research and they need to keep it down to 3 minutes, so it's not a huge investment on students' time. And then paid parental leave, which is new for this year and coming up, so that addresses some of the issues that grad students are having. And they're working on an increased focus on communication so that everyone across the university knows what's going on and knows what's happening with grad students. Past that, we had an undergraduate update as well. We've seen a slight decline in the number of students who are applying to our university. This was expected. Last year was officially our first year to the common application. And by moving to the common application, it was removed what we had done in the past as a partial fee waiver. This was intended for a lot of our students who we have equipment to access, so people who weren't able to pay that full fine or that full fee could have a partial fee waiver. When we moved to the Common App, that had to go away, so it was either no fee or full fee, and Ohio University was permitted to access, so okay, we'll do no fee. So we had a lot of students who were just clicking a box to apply who weren't actually intending or interested in coming to Ohio University. About 60% of those students who did that, who we were able to look at and see through who didn't continue with the process, had no other interaction with Ohio University other than clicking that box. So we talked to Common Application. They were able to add in the partial fee waiver this year, so we're down those applications, but the applicants we do have are actually committed to coming to Ohio University and actually interested in learning more about the university itself. We also talked about our default rate for students. So this is the default rate prior to the end of 1 to 2 fiscal years after graduating. So this is a lot of student loans. Default is when you've not been paying on those. Our rate of that is 9.7%, but that's across all regional campuses and Athens main campus. Athens main campus was, excuse me, a little bit lower than that, but we're still well underneath the 11% average for colleges within Ohio. We also had, governance was busy. We also had an update from science cafes. Science cafes are near and dear to my heart as an engineering major, but they're offered for the entire campus in Front Room Cafe. The idea is to make science accessible to students from all different majors and even community members, other faculty, and community students. So we've had great success for those. We actually had a cool presentation that went on surrounding plants and how they grow in anti-gravity and what goes with that. So one of our best presentations of the day. So if you haven't been to a science cafe, I highly recommend you check it out and can go to one if you can. Academics, I get to talk a lot. Academics, we had the AQUIP Strategy Forum update. This is something that President Nellis and team have been working on. Our presentation today surrounded around what they're going to be doing with faculty learning communities. And this will center around 4 different ideas: quantitative literacy, critical thinking, written communications, and teamwork. These will be groups of 5 to 7 faculty members where there's a financial incentive as well, so the faculty actually engage with this process. And the idea is to get faculty members up to a standard that will be able to help students across the board, including teamwork, communication, so that students have better experiences in their classes with faculty members. And this is a rubric that'll have to do with our timeline moving forward with that. So there are actually set guidelines, and it's not something that kind of gets dropped by the wayside.
Moving on to resources, there were 3 main initiatives that we talked about listed up here that we approved to move forward with. So the first one being the baseball field is going to receive artificial turf. This really helps with turnaround time, especially in times like this where it's rainy. The fields are so easily torn up, and it takes a lot of money and time and personnel to keep them in prime condition for this. So that would be that is a $600,000 project funded through private and external sourcing. The Innovation Center is also going to have their roof replaced. That is a $900,000 project pulled from our Century Bond. And the OU Chillicothe Regional Campus is going to add on and renovate their Student Academic Center building. So this is going to include things like tutoring facilities, study rooms, lactation rooms, media rooms in their library, and improved ADA restroom initiatives as well. And that had some funky funding, so I put the graph at the bottom for you guys so you can see where the state capital appropriations are, the gifts, and internal bank financing as well. Usually in audit, it's no news is good news, and we have news, but it's still pretty good. So the 2018 audits have begun. In our chief audit report, we are a little bit behind. This is mainly due to staffing that fell off. So what they told us is they're not back on track now, but they are back on their audits, and they want to do this properly and thoroughly. So they're not going to rush it, so that's why we're behind. And you can see here in red where some of those are kind of lacking. They will be done at a normal audit ending time, but it's not early like we're used to. So while it's late for us, it's not late in the audit world. Furthermore, we have some construction updates. Jefferson Hall, McCracken, and Walter Fieldhouse are complete. And you can see here where some of the other ones are still being built, like HCOM, things like that. And you can also see where we are charged to date versus where our budget lies. So for the completed ones, McCracken, Walter, and Jefferson basically used up all of those budget because they are completely and totally done. Furthermore, we are looking to reduce and or eliminate our cash collection points. So that's a few reasons for that. It's faster. We're developing e-markets because we personally, our generation likes to use e-markets a lot. Think about your tuition rates, for example. How many of us pay those online versus go to the bursar with a paper check? And it takes less cost to train personnel to handle cash because you have to do so many accounting things with that, and you have to have essentially trustworthy personnel because it's very easy to lose cash or to embezzle it. And an important note with this, we're not reducing or taking away cash collection points from things like dining halls or the markets or things like that, places where, yeah, it makes more sense to have cash collection points there. This is more for kind of higher in the administration, internal things. Other news, new provost coming soon. I think Landon and Maria served on that, so thank you for that. We will have a new student trustee after the awards gala. The next meeting is May 14th in Dublin. And we talked last time about when we get the board book coming into you guys before the board meeting to discuss current issues and what we're going to be talking about in those board meetings. What we discovered is we actually do press releases, and what I asked our secretary, Dave Moore, to do is to send that to you guys as kind of like the board book essentially. And we can come in and talk about those points. And then we also asked him after the board meetings to send you guys out the full board book as well. So then when we come in here, hopefully you guys could have seen what we've seen and what we've talked about as well. Does that sound okay to you guys? Is that cool? Does anybody have any dissensions to that or questions? Okay. Some things that weren't in here, I think a slide got cut from our original deck. Two big things actually. The regional campuses now have their own guarantee. It's important to note that this guarantee is not under the same cost model that what we're used to as the main campus. They did their own analysis on this, and it's still cheaper than a lot of community colleges in our regions like Chillicothe and Zanesville, things like that, Lancaster. So really exciting stuff. We're hoping to see A lot of excitement about that on our regional campuses. Additionally, we are approving to move forward with looking into designing and construction renovation of 29 Park Place and that surrounding area. And we saw drafts. It was in the slide, but
we'll paint a picture for you.
Yeah, we'll paint a picture. Essentially, what they're doing is in front of Alden, they're extending that sidewalk, so it's more of a study hangout place. They're going to put benches, things like that, so we can go and hang out there. They're also looking to renovate 29 Park Place, the former president house. So you can go in there, we can have events on the lawn, we can have events in the house. There's also gardens. If you ever walk on the backside, the backside of Baker, right by the lakes, there's gardens back there that you couldn't really tell right now. So they're looking to renovate those as well, so we can, as students or whomever is on campus, go through those gardens and kind of just enjoy a peaceful moment on campus. Probably similar to the ones in front of Alden where we have the statue. So that wasn't in there, so we figured we would tell you guys as well. We don't have an idea of budget on that right now because we literally just approved to move forward to look into the design and construction of it and the budgeting. So hopefully we'll have an update.
And the reason that has even been looked into is, for one reason, President Nellis, one of his strategic pathways is making sure that the academic experience on campus is increased. So having that area sort of a knowledge corridor is what's being thrown around right now with the President's House, which will hold different scholar programs on campus, as well as having a library extend out. Another reason it's being looked at is potential traffic issues there right now with the two-way traffic as it is. Each of those lanes is almost big enough for 2 cars to get by. And with library drop-offs, in addition to students being in a hurry to get wherever, community members doing whatever they're doing, it can be dangerous over there at certain times. So looking at that as well to address it. In terms of funding, like Brooke said, this is really, really early stage. This is probably a project that definitely won't be done while I'm here, maybe 5 to 10 years. When we come back for reunions, God willing, we all graduate, then we'll get to see it.
Yes.
Was there any talk in the section talking about the graduate student discussions on, now they have to pay rental leave? Was there any discussion of the average OU campaign?
About the what?
The average OU campaign of getting their health care benefits to the average level?
So there wasn't. Joe Shields talked a little bit about what he has to do. He's also the chair of, or not the chair. He is the faculty representative that sits in with Graduate Student Senate. So he's been the main contact point for a lot of the issues that have been raised for graduate students, of course. And that last bullet point he talked about communication across different avenues on campus is what he's looking into to really promote some of those issues that graduate students are dealing with right now.
Yep.
Not really sure how to ask the question, but so like you mentioned about like student safety, especially outside of Alden, was like student safety in general, talk about like how pros, because we brought this up in the body before, but like outside Jeff, or now that they made Jeff 2-way, so there's like the little cross, like to cross Jeff to get to College Green. I've been almost run over like 5 times, trying to graduate, so I don't know if like, have they mentioned that at all, because there's other points that like need sidewalks and need lights so people know when to stop and go. Like, do you know if they are planning on?
I haven't heard anything, and it wasn't discussed in this last board meeting. I think that's an interesting point. So I think because that point is so new, and we're still going through the list of deferred maintenance and things like that, I think that might be either A, not on the list yet because it is new, it's a new point of concern, but you're talking about campus-wide in general as well. So no, we haven't talked about it, but we can send it to Dave Moore, and he can send that off to, I'm really struggling to remember her name right now. Sure. Send it up. Thank you. And she can add it to her list of probably like the campus-wide safety initiatives.
It's like a safety walk with the lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
definitely a concern of the university, looking at what's going to be happening on Richland Avenue with building like a safer crossway there. It might be something that'll be not lumped in with that same project, but in that same sort of committee meeting that they discussed.
Senator Rises.
This is actually to address Amal's question. Also, report any like crosswalks or causeways that you think are unsafe or inaccessible to the Accessibility Liaisons Program, as well as the Presidential Advisory Council on Accessibility. And so, like, you want to like write a note or email, I can pass out that information.
And to the Rep 3 student reps we have in the transportation committee because they're doing the transportation master plan. So, any other questions? I know I have one. Senator Smith.
I was wondering, was there any discussion about the feedback at the open forum on the free speech policy?
So that's a great question. We didn't discuss it as a board, but I know President Dallas is very aware of what's going on and is in the works right now of creating what will be a new policy.
He actually mentioned it in his president's report on Friday, but we couldn't really talk about it because nothing's come out of that, nothing tangible. A document can't be handed to us. So all he could say was that the forum was held. He said it was a great discussion. So hopefully maybe at the next one or the one after that, it would go forward when something is tangible. Good question.
Any other questions? I have a question. I didn't see it on the slide, but that might have been the slide that vanished. Could you give us an update on the career and experiential learning?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Landon. Yes, so I know that this has kind of been a hot topic, something that's been on a lot of our minds because who wants to pay more? So we did decide to go forward with it. It's important to note that it still has to get approved by the Chancellor and the Department of Education. So the board is trying to make it so that it would be implemented for fall. That way they can get going. But it's unclear yet if it'll make that deadline. It would be $6 per credit hour, up to $72 per semester. And when we were talking about it, I asked, was that the upper echelon of your approximations or the lower or about the middle? And other universities that have done this, and based upon our own estimations, we would need somewhere between $4 and $10 to be charged per credit hour, like I said, in order for this initiative to be successful, to have the money that we need. So $6 is really on the lower end of the need monetarily to do stuff like this. So this is for, if you're in the College of Business, they changed the name of it, Student Success Center, I think. They're trying to implement that across the university. However, that will not be felt by us, by students, for approximately a year because they need to do analyses, they need to have budgeting, things like that. So we, as students, won't feel the effect of this for approximately a year, which is unfortunate, but I think the benefits that will be reaped if you've had support like this is fantastic.
And Chair King and Vice Chair Scholl really enjoyed their time there. They have you, so it was just last Wednesday night, it feels like forever ago.
It does.
But they want to be able to continue doing those sorts of things moving forward with Senate, just to again break down some of those barriers between what the board does and what they do, or what Student Senate does. So being able to have those conversations, and they came away with it really happy and excited about all of you and students in general on campus and them wanting to be engaged.
And this also affects our regional campuses as well. It's not just the main center. Does that adequately answer?
Yeah, and the only cohort affected, it won't affect us to pay for it.
Yeah.
It will be the incoming class because we guarantee.
Correct.
So none of you will be paying for it. So you can't.
Sorry, maybe I misunderstand. The fee added on, the cost increase affects all students, even regional campus students. But are those programs that the money is going to be supporting accessible to regional campus students?
So the idea is to have one-on-one capabilities on our university's campus, but to be able to have a person who is responsible for different areas of the regional campuses and who calls into go out to meet with students on those campuses, but similar to making sure that they are tracking for whatever degree that they want to go, especially students who are seeking the 4-year degrees out of the regional campuses and are planning on going immediately back into industry. The difference with having people actually situated at each of the regional campuses is many of those students are the non-traditional students who may also be working at the same time. So they don't need as much active hand-on where we place them in the job after this while they're working or with their families on the side. But if they want that sort of connection, they can still find it through this program.
So it seems strange that we would be charging them the same for resources that were spread much more thinly among those campuses though.
And I agree with you, but at the same time, that's applicable to a lot of things in our university. So the Rape and Sexual Assault Survivor Center, how many of us have actually utilized the resources there? Yeah, we pay for them every time we pay our tuition. So it's things like that. But what's different about this is it does affect everything across the university. It's not a targeted audience of students. It's everyone. So while yes, I completely agree, like you may not use this resource if you were an incoming freshman. However, it affects everybody and it's available for you to use, just like something like the Rape and Sexual Assault Center would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess, and then I'll stop.
Yeah, I mean, please.
But I know that for many students who attend regional campuses, part of the logic of that, not always, but sometimes, is because of being in Athens full-time is cost prohibitive.
Right.
And so I just wonder to what extent that's been taken into account.
I mean, the cost sensitivity on regional campuses is absolutely higher. I mean, a dollar goes farther there, essentially, if you think about it, than it does here. So it's a really valid point. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make it as accessible to everybody as possible. So regardless of your year in this university, regardless of your major or what college that you're in or what campus that you're at, we want to try to make this as accessible as possible. So I'm hoping that with the train of thought here, I haven't specifically asked, is that this will kind of be a main hub Athens campus thing first. And then hopefully as we get more established with that, this can get reached out to with those regional campuses better and stronger so that they do have the same presence and the same exact resources that we're privileged to have. And I think that's a really valid point because cost sensitivity is absolutely different by regional campus.
Have I not given the body an update on this fee? It happened in January. I can't remember. Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I say I abstained from the vote? And one of the specific reasons that I abstained was because I was concerned about regional campuses. And I sent the board a memo about that in January, but I'll send all the budget numbers I have to you all. And then if you think it's something worthy enough to have a bill written, everything just happened quickly in January that we couldn't get a bill around to say our official support, but I'll send that as an update. Are there any other questions for our student trustees? If not, thank you for coming, Brooke, and thank you for your service.
Thank you guys.
Up next, we have the Chief of OUPD, Chief Powers, and he has a little presentation, and then we'll do like a little Q&A. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you all for inviting me and for allowing me time this evening to talk with all of you. Hopefully I'll manage to push the right buttons here and not blind anybody with the laser. I'll put this yeah. There's 4 buttons here. The right one. I'm glad it's not me.
Here, I can push the buttons if you just tell me right.
Okay. All right. So really quickly, I've got this slide deck, which I want to get through as quickly as I can so that you all have time for questions and answers. So just briefly, those are the things that I'm intending to go over tonight. First of all, our mission statement, followed by our values. Probably a lot of you don't know what our mission statement and values are, so I thought it would be helpful to share them with you this evening. I'm not going to read them all to you. I figure if you're OU students, you can probably manage to read them. So I want to touch just briefly on hiring and recruitment. That's something that's been a real focus, and you'll see later on that it continues to be one of our goals. We do offer highly competitive salary benefits, which ends up attracting about 200 applicants a year, which is pretty good. There's a lot of melt from that, just like a lot of students apply to come to OU and then don't come. A lot of people sign up to take our test and then they don't show up. There is a pretty rigorous hiring process, so they have to get through a written civil service test. They have to get through a physical, physical agility if they've not been in basic academy. They have to go through 2 different interviews. They have to go through a community panel interview, and then they have to go through a background investigation, psychological examination, and a truth verification examination, followed by a medical. So this process takes us about 90 days, somewhere 3 to 4 months, to onboard a new officer. After they've been hired, if they're not already certified working as a police officer, they have to go to the basic academy, which takes about 6 months. Currently, we send them up to the Highway Patrol Academy in Columbus for that training. After that, they have 12 weeks of field training here on campus with a coaching officer, and then they're on probation for 1 year. So that I like to refer to as the last step of the hiring process. If they're not satisfied with their performance or don't believe they're going to be a good fit for our community, then we don't have to have a reason to terminate their employment. So thankfully that doesn't happen very often because we do have a pretty rigorous process for vetting them before we hire them. And as a result, we have relatively low turnover, which means that our officers can start to get to know the community and start to get to know how things are done here. Just briefly, I think probably most of you already know this. Our legal authority comes from the state of Ohio. We are sworn. Actually, the president swears all of us in by authority vested in the Board of Trustees. We are also all sworn in as reserve police officers for the city of Athens. So we have jurisdiction throughout the city. We have a mutual aid agreement with the sheriff's office, with the highway patrol, and with all of the other four-year colleges in Ohio, their police departments. And our detectives are actually sworn as deputies for the sheriff as well, so they have countywide jurisdiction for investigative purposes. So this just kind of goes through the general duties that we do. I think most people understand what we do in terms of patrol operations. We do the active shooter response training, which is a patrol function, both for our officers as well as for the community as a whole, the ALICE training that you may have heard of. Criminal investigations, which is a separate unit from patrol. Those folks work in plain clothes. They investigate more complex cases and also provide plainclothes support for our patrol operations. One of the key things that our detectives do is threat assessment, which is becoming a burgeoning field in university law enforcement. In fact, we're getting calls now from municipalities who are starting to look at this process for high schools and for secondary schools. We work very closely with the Student Referral and Consultation Committee, which is chaired by the Dean of Students Office. And our goal here is to identify potential people of concern who maybe have concerning behavior, and then see what we can do either through SRCC to work with them and help them succeed, or to evaluate whether or not we believe there may be an ongoing threat to the broader community. We have a similar arrangement with Human Resources for employees of concern as well. And we've had a few success stories from these incidents. Most of the time, the calls we get, and we get a lot of them, everybody is very edgy about all this sort of thing nowadays. And so anybody that does anything that's slightly abnormal, they're on the phone, oh, and this person's been a problem. So a very big part of what that threat assessment process is making sure that we focus on behavior and sort of sorting through what's legitimate concerns and what maybe a little bit of panic. So our special operations. So this covers our special event staffing, football games, basketball games, which are a unique challenge from a law enforcement perspective. Our explosive detection canines fall under our special operations section, and then our plainclothes military protection. I particularly enjoy this picture up here in the right-hand corner. I would like to point out right away that the person on the left is my detective, actually one of my lieutenants. He's the supervisor of the criminal investigations unit. The person on the right is one of President Obama's Secret Service agents. As you can see, I believe my lieutenant's a little bit more engaged than the Secret Service agent was as they were waiting for the president to arrive. This is one of my favorite pictures. I like to call it Where's Waldo. President Obama, as you can see, is in the lower right-hand corner there. He was working the rope line after he gave his speech in 2012. And right here was our lieutenant, who was responsible for working with the Secret Service on the rope line during that visit. So we're kind of proud of him for that. I was a little disappointed that it looks as though he's texting in this particular picture, but he assures me that's not what he was doing. Administrative services is all the boring stuff that I have to do and that my captains do in terms of vision and budget and all of those sort of things. So I won't bore you with all of those details. I do want to run through some of our community relations initiatives. As you'll see later on when I talk about our goals, that remains one of our top priorities. This is just a list of some of the things that we've tried to do over the years to enhance our engagement with the community. We now have a full-time officer whose job is community relations. So he spends all of his time, 40 hours a week, trying to work on engaging the community. One of our newest programs, which I'm actually announcing for the first time this evening publicly, is our Officer Points program. We have purchased these little officer points. Every one of our officers has their own set of coins, which has their specific badge on the back and their name. And we're going to announce this to the community and have our officers carry them. And the hope is that this will provide a means for engagement. We will be encouraging people to come and ask officers for their coins and hopefully have a conversation about whatever may be on people's minds as they do that. The goal will be if you collect the entire department, we've got an equal display case that we'll use as well with those points, because I'm sure all of you really want to have a display case of police coins. But nonetheless, it's the best we can do to try and find a way. Years and years and years ago, when I first started, we used to have baseball cards, and when I suggested that recently, I was almost locked out of the room, so apparently I'm dating myself. But I was assured that coins is a much more modern way of engaging, so hopefully that will work. Training, I like to touch on this because we get asked a lot about our training. We average 46 hours a year for continued professional training for officers. The most that the Attorney General has ever required in the state of Ohio is 20 hours. So we more than double what is required in certifications in the state of Ohio. We do annual in-service training on use of force, judgment, escalation, de-escalation, and scenario-based training as well. So our officers are very well trained. All of our officers, when they're first hired, are required to attend CIT training, which is crisis intervention team. It's specifically designed to help law enforcement deal with mental health issues, people that are experiencing mental health issues. And it's been very valuable training for us. All of our detectives have been through what we call FETI training, which is forensic experiential trauma-informed investigation training. It's a very new way of investigating sexual assaults. I don't know if any of you were able to attend the Start by Believing kickoff event that was held at the Center a couple of weeks ago. One of our detectives and one of the survivors with whom we worked on the case did a presentation and sort of an informal conversation about the process and talking a bit about FED, which is a way of enhancing our ability to investigate cases and hopefully get convictions. And his case, that particular case, was our first conviction. It was an investigative technique. So we're pleased that person is now in prison. We also participate in the Summer Institute for Diversity Education, or SIDE training, and the Senior Leadership Development Program for supervisors. Just briefly, our shared services. MARCS is the statewide radio system for we use for emergency communications. We have a detective assigned to the Major Crimes Unit, which is a 3-county drug task force. It also deals with other major crimes as well. We have our explosive detection canines. They're funded by Homeland Security and can be deployed anywhere in Southeast Ohio. We have 7 officers, I believe, who are members of a statewide task force, Task Force Blue, which is mobile field force. It's sort of a civil unrest response team, if you will. They deployed up to Cleveland, for example, for the RNC. And then we also participated in a co-located facility study a couple of years ago with the city and with the county. So our goals for 2017-2018, which of course we're halfway through at this point, is to enhance our community relations initiatives, which we've tried to do over the course of the year. Enhance the diversity of our department members. One of the challenges that we face in Southeast Ohio is that there's not a lot of diversity here locally, so we're trying to attract people from other parts of the state to come here. And that can be very challenging because salaries in Southeast Ohio are a little bit depressed compared to the rest of the state. But we're starting to look, as you'll see here, with academic partnerships at creating ways we can engage with our students that want to stay here in Athens after they graduate, who maybe are interested in a law enforcement career, and we can tap into the diversity of our student base to try and enhance our diversity a little bit. And then the rest of those are not boring, to be honest. So I want to touch quickly on some accomplishments. I did mention the sexual assault conviction we had, the Start by Believing campaign, and I actually just found out that we worked on that, was nominated for, as was the survivor you worked with, nominated for, and was receiving a state award from the Office of Crime Victim Support for model criminal justice. So I'm very proud of that. We've also had a few successful threat assessment cases, one of which happened just over a year ago with a young man who was arrested in Logan trying to buy ammunition for an AR-15 after he was falling from classes. We ended up presenting nationally on that particular case. The second half of those are what I call community accomplishments, which are things that have affected the police in a positive way, but are really accomplishments that the community deserves credit for. The Milo lecture is the first one. I think when you compare Milo's visit to Ohio University to Milo's visit to Berkeley, there was a significant difference, and in large part that was because our students worked together not to engage and not to incite him. And that actually worked out very well. He wasn't very happy with the two of them before. There have been a number of other protests that we've been able to work with student activists on to help in the planning and to support them. And they've been able to make the statement and their voices heard in very positive ways. I also want to shout out the fests. I know that seems really strange. I would actually be highlighting the fests, but over the 9 years I've been here, I've seen a tremendous improvement in the culture and environment at fests. I don't get rocks and bottles thrown at me now, nor do any of the other officers, which is nice. We've not had a fire at a fest in a while. What we have is, and what we see is people being a lot more respectful, recognizing the impact that their behavior has on their neighbors and behaving accordingly. And I'd like to thank Student Senate for the porta potties too. I know that may have been a little controversial, but as far as I'm concerned, if you all provided somewhere other than outside for people to go to the bathroom, I'm absolutely good with it. So I appreciate that. I also want to mention, I just thought when I saw Jordan, that another accomplishment is two things that Jordan brought to my attention when we did the safety walk back in the fall. One was the fact that we were not able to accept text messages as a means of communication for people. And we are currently in the process of reviewing proposals to be at our RMS system. And one of the requirements for those vendors is that we have to be able to accept text messages. So we hope to be able to do that starting in the fall. Also this summer, we're putting all of our officers in the entire department through the law enforcement specific training for working with people on the autism spectrum. So both of those came out of suggestions that Jordan made, which I appreciate. So another positive from Student Senate. So our challenges for the future, community relations in general, issues surrounding protests, counter-protests, and sort of navigating all of that controversy in a way that keeps people safe, and of course continuing attention towards sexual violence. And then the last question I was asked was, how can Student Senate help? And I think providing peer leadership is key. I think Jordan, not to single you out, Jordan, I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable, but she reached out and she took up an issue and brought it to my attention, and it was extremely important, something that we weren't equipped to do, and we responded for that. And that kind of leadership, both with administration but also with your peers, is very helpful. And I think the key for any of what we're trying to do is communication. And nights like this and opportunities to answer questions from all of you help to do that. And what I was asking in turn is that you share that information with people if you feel that you do things with. That's all I have. So thank you from our men, women, and dogs of OUPD. That's the entire department there. Are there any questions that I can answer? Yes.
We have about 15 minutes just to go down.
How do you distinguish between credible and non-credible evidence?
That's a great question. So the first thing that we focus on is behavior. What has the person done? What is it that someone has done that is causing you concern? We usually meet with the person that's made the complaint, try to understand why they're concerned about this person, and then we quite often consult with CPS, with the SRCC, with other people on campus to sort of talk about what's our best approach here. Is it best for the students to have a conversation with somebody if in fact we believe it rises to that level? Is it something that that is concerning enough for us to have a conversation? Has somebody made direct threats? Have they talked about violence in a way that is concerning? Or is it more like that they're having trouble adjusting or something of that nature? After we sort of make that initial assessment, if this looks like involves threats of violence and things like that, then we'll usually contact the police department where the person came from. If it's a student, if it's an employee, it might be the local police departments to see if they've had any prior incidents with this person and prior reasons for concern about violence. And then a lot of times it's having conversations with the student's office, actually facilitating conversations with faculty and other people to sort of make sure that we've got a full picture of what's going on with this person. And then as a group trying to decide what's the best way to do it. It's really hard. There are no litmus tests, and it has to be kind of assessed on a case-by-case basis. But we try very hard to make sure that we understand the reason why this is being brought to our attention in the first place. That kind of answer the question?
You talked about the advanced sexual assault investigation. Can you just talk more about what that entails?
Sure. So I'm going to borrow from my detective because I've not been to the training myself because I don't actually investigate sexual assault myself. But the training recognizes the fact that when a person is a victim of trauma, they don't form memories in the same way that people do in their circumstances. So it's not linear. Right? So right now we're sort of remembering this meeting in the order that it happened. But had this been a traumatic event, we would have fragmented memories. And the analogy that he drew is that it's sort of like taking a jigsaw puzzle and dumping it out on the table. Some of the pieces are upside down, and we're not even going to remember those things happened. Other pieces might be the right side up, but they're not in the right place. And so FEDI recognizes the fact that people don't form memories in the same way when they're under traumatic stress, and finds other ways of asking questions to help jog those memories. And it also recognizes the fact that simply because somebody doesn't recall a detail the first time they're interviewed doesn't mean that they're lying when they bring that up later. So it's a much more survivor-friendly, it's a kind of a silly thing to say because there's not a lot that's friendly about the criminal justice system, unfortunately, but it is an effort to try and make the process more friendly for survivors and more effective in terms of prosecution. Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
What kind of recent professional development training have you gone?
Oh gosh, all sorts of things. I mean, I couldn't even begin to come up with a list of things. There's human relations, there's mediation, there's various investigation, various enforcement type things, ODI against ODI classes.
My question, for the most part, pertains to since you are sworn in as dual, you're sworn both in the city and the university, to help out farther past Athens County or something like that. What in relation to racial profiling or any type of profiling in general?
That is now part of the basic academy. And so we're now getting officers that have been trained in consciously avoiding bias, if you will, in terms of how they do their jobs. We've started sending everybody through the Summer Institute for Diversity Education in an effort to try and broaden their perspective beyond just law enforcement training. And we also keep statistics on all of our traffic stops. And we examine those on an annual basis to see whether or not we're seeing a disproportionate treatment of motorists based on race. One of the academic partnerships that we're currently developing is with Dr. Vanderbilt from sociology in order to help us take those statistics, those racial profiling statistics, and make sure that we're looking at them in a meaningful way. So we've asked him as sort of an outside consultant to take it. turning over that data to him to help develop a framework for analyzing it in a way that ensures we're not unintentionally biased in how we're examining our own behavior. So it is something that is a priority for us. Certainly the data that we've looked at right now says that our stops are proportionate to the minority representation in our community. But I'm not 100% satisfied that that's necessarily an accurate assessment because I don't know how to measure our community because we have so many people that come through campus, come for special events that aren't necessarily students. And there's also no requirement that faculty, staff, or the students I think actually have to register or identify as a minority. So we're trying to get our hands around that in a way that will allow us to be sure that we're being effective in what we're doing.
Yeah, so for the past 2 years that I've been on campus, I'm a sophomore currently. I have not seen anywhere been trained on what OU's policy on active shooter situation is like. In my high school back in central Jersey, we would have periodic random lockdowns where we would have drills. I know OU is a big campus as well as bleeding into Athens community, but does OU PD as well as EPD have any type of protocol when it comes to an active shooter situation that would ensure the safest outcome for all the students and faculty on campus?
Sure. So a couple of ways to answer the question. First, we have the ALICE training that we provide to community members on responding to an active shooter. You can actually see a short video that kind of gives you a teaser about it on our website. In addition to that, we do regular training both within our department and with other agencies nearby on active shooter response. And unfortunately, we've had a couple of near scares on campus with that. The most recent one I can think of was in the summer of 14 or 15, I forget, when we got a 911 call from someone claiming they just shot their mother in the lobby of Damage Cell standing there with a gun. In that particular case, after the first officers were on scene in a little under 2 minutes, and in about 10 minutes we had 24 officers on campus from surrounding agencies working together to clear all of the buildings. It turned out it was a swatting call. It was not a legitimate call, but it was actually a good opportunity for us to test our response procedures. We learned some lessons from that, but by and large, I was pretty satisfied with the overall response.
Right, so my follow-up question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you think that there's a potential for OU and APD to create more transparency in that regard, to maybe put required trainings for RA staff, maybe having seminars for students and faculty during the school days, maybe doing random texts like you already do with other types of emergency systems, just so this way I feel safe with all the crazy stuff that's happening on right now. Because to be honest, I feel unsafe at my campus because literally anyone outside of Athens can drive up the truck and just come in at any time and do that kind of stuff. And some of my friends and I are a little concerned. So I think that there should be more transparency with the student and faculty body. But I know that there are, private practices that you guys do. And thank you for telling me about that procedure again. That makes me feel a little bit better. But I want personally more visibility. I don't know how you guys would go about that.
Sure. We do offer the ALICE training in open sessions to the community twice a semester. We don't actually have the authority to leverage mandates on faculty or students for that matter, but we have certainly made known and made available to the different bodies that do that training is available. Some faculty members choose to have us come in and do a session for their class, but we certainly can't require that of faculty to do. That's way beyond my pay grade.
So that would basically be it for us to contact the Senate or somebody else to the administration.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
And I think we have time for about 3 more questions. I know Senator here has a question.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Sure.
So I have kind of a broad question trying to students at the Athens level. So obviously when you get outside support, you said you have a good collaboration with other law enforcement agencies that come down for feds. Obviously those officers are trained or briefed on where it's going to happen, what to expect, that sort of thing. So when in the current legislation of the freedom of speech policy, we have to rent out a space, and I think that's communicated to you guys. How are the external officers that come down briefed on that space? Do they just know, like, we expect this to be big and we need extra officers, or do they know if it's going to be racially charged, if it's going to be with firearms charged? Are they given any sort of briefing other than this is happening?
Sure. So most of the officers that we use from the outside are for more organized special events like football games, basketball games, and things of that nature. The officers that we use from outside agencies are ones that we know and have to some degree vetted. We don't just sort of open it up and take anybody that's sworn. And if we're not happy with how an officer conducts themselves, they are invited to come back for the future. As far as each specific event goes, it really depends what it is. In a spontaneous sort of event that occurs on campus, OUPD is in charge of that event. So any officers, really any event that happens on campus, planned or unplanned, ultimately OUPD is in charge. I'm at all the football games because ultimately if something bad happens in a football game, I'm the one that's responsible for the law enforcement response. It doesn't matter who the agency is, they're here under a mutual aid agreement that says they're working for OUPD. So we provide them with as much information as we can to ensure that they're properly briefed and what our expectations are in terms of response. For example, at football games, we have various contingency plans for unexpected evacuation, weather-related or related to some type of threat. We have a plan for if someone tries to take over the field and start to pull down goalposts or something of that nature, which sort of sounds funny, but people have actually been killed with goalposts coming down after football games. So in that case, we go over all those contingency plans in a big briefing before the event, and they're assigned to a supervisor from OUPD. All the officers are assigned to different groups depending on what their assignment is, and they have a supervisor from OUPD who's responsible for directing and guiding them. So officers from other agencies aren't really here acting as free agents. They're under our supervision to the extent that we can supervise them and we're briefed accordingly about our expectations.
Any other questions?
So I know a couple other colleges and universities have a safety app, and I think that that's something that would make students feel a lot safer. So I was just curious if you guys have ever talked about it, what some roadblocks are into maybe thinking of the possibility of that.
So that's a great question. I'm super glad you asked because that's something I should have put on the slide about what Student Senate can do to help. So I get contacted daily almost by these app manufacturers. It's a fertile field right now, and it costs a lot of money. It costs money regardless of how many people actually use them. So most of these apps are based on how many students are enrolled, not on how many of them actually subscribe to the app. So my feeling is that I don't want to go out there and select an app and then students aren't interested in using it. It's not the one they want. So I would love for Student Senate to take that issue up. If that's something that's important to students, then I'd love to see Student Senate pick that up and work with us. We'll work with you to help identify funding if that becomes an issue. But I want some assurance that there's student buy-in to this and that it will be utilized so that I'm not recommending to my boss that we spend a bunch of money on something and then 3 people involved or something. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was definitely talking to about that.
Great. I think there was one more question. Squeeze that in.
I just have a question. Honestly, for what strategies are you taking into account of sexual assault? The reason I ask is, I'm pretty sure last semester the sexual assault happened in the app. So behind the door, right by my house. I got home. I got scared walking things. I didn't see the cop car on where it happened. So I was wondering, are there any baseline strategies, even if sexual assault happens in a particular location? What happens there?
Sure. So last fall we undertook a pretty intensive analysis of our sexual assault statistics over the period of about 5 or 10 years. You know, I think you know summer.
Yeah, I think it was 5.
For 5 years, okay. In order to try and identify if we were seeing any trends. And what we actually saw was that the attacks that occurred outside occurred in areas that were counterintuitive to what you would think. They occurred in areas that were like Morton Hill or Jeffville, which you would think are fairly well traveled. They didn't seem to occur in the more obscure places. And I think what that suggested to me was that there are times of opportunity, that somebody's just out walking around in areas where there are people. The vast majority, and I don't remember the percentage now, occur inside. They occur in residential space. And of course, nobody wants the police in their residential space. So we are working with groups like the Campus Enrollment Center and ECRC and others. I'm on the President's Advisory Council on Sexual Misconduct. I'm on the prevention subcommittee of that group, to try and work on strategies to raise awareness and to develop prevention strategies. But it's not, our statistics show that it's not as simple as being able to put more lighting in a particular place or more control in a particular place or anything like that to solve. So to be honest, it's a great culture and it's addressing that culture.
Yeah, Jordan, you go ahead.
I know there was a discussion about cameras on campus. Is that still being considered?
It is, yes. I won't go into great detail because it's still in the very early stages, but we are talking about some cameras in places where that might be helpful. Unfortunately, it won't address the prevention issue, but it might help with the apprehension and prosecution side of it, which ultimately might lead to prevention in terms of encouraging people not to engage in that behavior on campus.
Well, Chief Powers, thank you for coming tonight. And it was all. So we do have a lot of presentations tonight. We're not going to do the DC networking trip presentation tonight, but we do have one more with our Environmental Affairs Commissioner, Commissioner Ramlow, and when Scott and Scott.
Is it working now?
Sure.
Cool. Awesome.
Hello, I'm Olivia Ramlow, Commissioner of Environmental Affairs. Hi, I'm Annalise. I'm Vice Commissioner of Environmental Affairs and Education.
And Scott with auxiliaries representing the campus markets.
So we're here to talk to you today about the Green for Green initiative. I don't know, way back when, fall semester, when I was doing my survey about environmental initiatives on campus,
It came out with this great data. So why did this initiative come about? I found that there's, of course, a big use of disposable bags on campus, which is very concerning to me and other environmentally aware people throughout campus. Currently, there's a 1 cent bag tax in all markets on campus, and 70% of people were not aware of this, and 30% of people were aware. And also, they feel like the fee associated with disposable bags at markets were too high, and the majority strongly disagree. So, you're starting to look at the problem, which I think this is going to talk about.
So a lot of people ask, what are the problem with plastic bags? And there are 380 billion plastic bags annually used in the U.S. with 1 trillion used worldwide annually. That's a lot of plastic, and considering that plastic was not invented it was invented in 1950, we don't necessarily know the long-term effects of this, but we are starting to see it in our oceans. So there are huge trash islands all throughout different oceans and bodies of water. And there is one twice the size of Texas, and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is what it's called. And that occurs when there's convergence of winds So wind patterns form and they create this gyre of circular patterns that form all of the plastic in one area. And then there's different hallways that have plastics floating from one area to the other, as you can see there. And it's just kind of concerning.
There we go. Okay.
So a lot of people ask why not paper bags. Paper bags are also great too. It takes a lot of oil to manufacture paper and water, and so it consumes more fresh water than any other industry, and a lot of hazardous material goes into that and is wasted.
Oops, one back. There we go. So to the initiative. So when Lydia brought this to culinary services, we discussed it and we come up with some different options. We knew that there were some positive things happening on campus. So this year we've sold almost 1,700 of these. But the negative thing is that the students, our customers, are buying them, but they're not necessarily using them as much as we want to in the markets. So in order to affect that, we thought the best way to go about it would be some kind of reward. So reward for good behavior. So what we come up with is doing a 5-cent reward for every time you buy anything in the market, and West 82 is actually going to join in on this. They're going to have their own bag. But anytime you buy products and we bag it with a reusable bag, and it doesn't have to be our reusable bag. It can be a reusable bag that you bring in. Anytime that you do that, you will get 5 cents off your purchase, okay, for every bag that you use. The flip side of that, we used to have a 1-cent bag tax, and now we're going to increase it to 5-cent bag tax. And the reason being is, Lydia, we talked about it, we discussed it, and we think that the 1 cent is not enough to affect people to do the positive thing. So we're hoping that if we can reward them with the 5 cents and encourage them to get the reward, then hopefully they'll do it. If not, then we'll charge them the 5 cents. Now, we do have 2 challenges. One is training our staff and for them to educate them and let them know exactly how to ring the purchases up and what qualifies as a reusable bag. And then the other thing is to educate customer students. So we're hoping to do some tabling during BSO and then some early tabling in the fall outside of the markets, and just kind of talk to people, let them know what we're offering, what we're doing, and that we're trying to be environmentally friendly. So we just want to open it up to questions, any suggestions we're willing to take. Yeah.
Oh,
have you started kind of accounting for hopefully the decline in plastic bags by ordering them? Like have you changed the number of how many plastic bags you're ordering to lower numbers so that you're encouraging people to use reusable bags?
We have seen a very, very slight decline. It's almost the same. They're not using these. They're buying. We've sold 1,700, but they're really not using them in the markets. I don't know what they're using them for. I have ideas.
I saw Zachary.
Yeah, hi. Thank you guys for working on this. Question, could we not take the money that we spend on plastic bags, buy a whole bunch of reusable bags, give those out to every student when they come to campus, and then say, bring the bag to the market or carry your things in your hands? That would change the culture, and I feel like we did that with the trays, and people were like, okay, I won't use trays.
Two things. I'll talk about one and you talk about the other.
Yep.
So the great thing, or hopefully passing a budget tonight for helping basically all the first years in the next year to have this full bag. Brought by housing, track, Senate, and culinary. So that initiative, we're hoping to push that forward. We're just seeing how it goes next year. But on the flip side, and we talk about how money is gonna work between where the money's gonna go.
Oh, just for the bag purchases, we'll purchase them through culinary, and then we can split the cost between the 4 groups. Yeah, that's no problem.
It's going back at that one.
Yeah, so, and here's the thing, and some of you might ask, well, where's all the money going that you're getting for that 5 cents for the plastic bags? Well, basically that goes back into the program and to fund culinary and the university initiatives. It really goes back into the fund. In the past, we have used that. Hold on, Jenny. I know you got a question. So in the past, so one thing that we did do, we did plant an herb garden at CSK 1 year with the money that we have for the one set backpacks. We did it where we were able to plant a herb garden there at CSK, and we use it on a daily basis. So there has been some good things we've done for that. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
So, but if I totally get the exchange, bring the bag, you know, 5 cents. But what if you are just an enterprising student and you just fill up your shirt and grab your stuff, like you don't use a bag at all? So you still get a 5 cent.
So, and that's why I said we need to train our staff on what qualifies. So backpacks, as long as you come to the register and you buy the things, yes, you're good. Yeah, we're okay. So now one question that came up that Lydia brought up to me is, well, what if somebody brings in a plastic bag and says, hey, can I get my 5 cents? So to me, that's a little bit of a wash. You know, we're trying to promote reusable bags, and plastic bags they're not good for the environment. They're really not. So we would probably not charge somebody, and we probably wouldn't give them a reward in that sense. So we're going to have to do some definition, some further definition. But we kind of want to get a feel from you guys to see what you thought and if you were okay with us moving forward.
As a long-term market employee, I'm really excited about this. But I was wondering, so like coming from personal experience with the 1 cent tax, it's not heavily enforced. How are we going to ensure that this 5 cent increase or decrease will be enforced?
Yeah. So, and that's part of our training, and we're gonna. It's going to be a lot more intense as far as the training goes, and we're going to be much more thorough. So I think some part of the 1 cent gets lost with both groups because it's so minimal. You know, some of the employees think, "Oh, why would I bother you?" And then some of the customers say, "Well, that doesn't matter." And so that's kind of the reason we're taking it up to 5 cents. So it will matter just a little bit.
And I think on top of that too, I mean, I was a student for the next year and I purchased the market and I'm ready to back and don't get my 5 cents. I would be kind of upset. So I feel like it's the positive reinforcement is also like people with this as well.
Okay, I have a running list now. So I have Anna.
And so, kind of go back to what you mentioned, this might be a bit of an aggressive solution, but why not just get rid of the plastic bags? Like, I know if I showed up and didn't have a plastic bag for me, it would take me once to learn. Produce the bag, have it every time. And I feel like that would be the general consensus because here and stuff sucks. So is that like been a discussion?
Not really, not yet. So I see a lot of people shaking their heads. Yes, just get rid of the plastic bags.
So I guess why hasn't that been?
So, well, because we have tons and tons of customers.
Yeah, and I have so many people come to me and say this, and my personal belief, I think this be a step-by-step process. I think it's new to visibilities, and if they go to the market and do something, they don't have any plastic bags, they literally can't carry everything back to their residence hall or home. It's kind of like you have to phase out process. So I think my end goal in my head, yes, all plastic bags and plastic boxes on the campus, but I think it would be definitely
It's a possibility. I do know that we have had many baskets stolen. So I would rather that didn't happen. So we're not doing plastic bags, but I'm taking baskets. That's probably not
Parker. Oh, sorry. This sounds like a good idea. I love it. One last thing, I'm not sure that they kind of like what money spent in parks, but I presume it's primarily swipes, which are a set amount of money, my understanding. So if you're going to buy something that's $12 and you're spending 2 swipes regardless, is there really an incentive? Like, do they see a 5-cent return, or like how would that money get back to them if they use money?
Yeah, it'll be right on the POS system. It's just like the 1 cent tax now. It's just a 5-cent discount. So yeah, we have that worked out on our POS system. So yeah, and it'll reflect. If you ask for a receipt, it would show you. But if you watch the little screen, it'll tell you when the 5 cents is given.
So they still have, like, can you use? I guess I don't know. Can you use part of this swipe, like, or does it use the entire swipe?
No, use the entire swipe, and you'll have money that you don't use. Yeah. But everybody knows the trick.
Could you repeat that real quick about the swipe? I didn't hear you.
So if you the swipes are done incrementally. Okay, so if you do swipe and you don't get the amount, or you don't buy the amount of food for the full swipe, then you still use that money. You still use the swipe. Yeah.
In that case, you still use, like, you kind of the 5 cents that you would get using the bags, kind of like, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do it though.
So has that been discussed? Change? That seems to me kind of crazy. I just really like money, so exactly.
It's the way the program's set up. You know, that's the way that it's there. So
well, Senator Ayers, that can definitely be a recommendation in a form of a letter to Canton Quinn. I have down Alicia.
I just have a question. You said that you have to like really train your employees on clicking the button. Can you just like program it in to have the tabs already included and then just take it off? Like that would be like it's already on and then you have to take it off.
we could look into that. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Joe. Oh, you. Amal?
I was just gonna ask. Right, okay, so like I know when I was living on campus and I'd go to the markets, I like would buy one thing and I personally never like asked for a bag. I would buy one thing and I know like the people working are more than happy to give me like size to carry one thing. I don't know if there's a way, like in addition to just getting rid of like that, you know, I don't know, is there a way to like maybe like you talk about like student training, but if there can be student training with plastic bags like for kind of keeping them like making clear to students like if this is something that they don't need a bag to carry, like don't give them one. Like I don't know if that's something I need to work with. You know, like you talk about the first one that we want to send isn't great. So I don't know if we throw that in at the same time.
Possibility, absolutely.
Nick?
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first quick one is bagging off when people were talking bagging. Whoa, thank you. Anyway, I support eliminating plastic bags right out of the gate. I understand the need to phase it out. So to make a compromise, can you set like a date, like this is when we're stopping it? Maybe like a year and a half, 2 years from now, say this is when we're completely stopping the plastic bag program to put pressure on the plastic bag industry. I don't know if that exists, but like whoever produces it, put pressure on them to really, know, hey, we're stopping this, and this way it gives the university more as an initiative to be more environmentally sustainable because we already have a 2070 carbon neutral plan, which is not going to benefit the environment by 2030 or by 2050, especially with these plastic bag oceans. So that's my first question. I apologize for being so long, I'm not trying to like attack you and saying I support both.
So I think it's worth conversation.
Yeah.
I think that we can talk about it. We can even go back to the drawing board. So we can think about that. But I think Lydia's case for transitioning sometimes is a little easier for people. Change is sometimes hard, but I think it's worth discussing.
Of course, and I also have to point out that you guys are doing a great job because I've been seeing some of the work with some of the signs that environmental students are doing as well as the environmental affairs division is doing. So you guys are doing a great job. My second question is, I just went to Rapid today and I found the plastic bags back on the counter, which pissed me off because someone just started an initiative to put them behind the counter and kind of ignore it. So really pressure those departments and initiatives that are taking place to actually remove the things that they're supposed to be removing. Because I got really angry that I saw plastic bags in Rapid because, turtles, right?
Well, and I can address that, so thank you for bringing it to my attention. We'll address that.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And then our final question is, go ahead, Lydia.
My first question also goes back to the consistent. If I just came up to all these departments and said, oh, we're gonna wear plastic bags, I would be fixed and escorted out of the room. Again, I'll iterate again. I would love all plastic bags to go on campus. I do feel like you have to give a little, let people show like how good of a thing this is, and then we can use it out down the road. So yes.
And Zacharias is the last question.
Thank you. Will you come back to Senate in the fall? I know we've been hounding you these questions and potentially update us on plans to eliminate single-use plastics entirely. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, one more thing. Again, we're voting on a budget tonight about this. It's $2,200. I think it'd be wise for me to remind everyone that if you think it's going to require more discussion than we have for tonight, that be mindful of tabling things. And then we've thrown out a lot of good ideas, so maybe getting a bill for next week about what we as Senate would like to see in the program. Since there are a lot of ideas thrown out, we can get it on paper. But thank you for coming, and our Senate members, great job. So moving on, would the students speak out? Are there any students here to speak out this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Are there any announcements? We'll start on this side of the room. Commissioner Clear.
SAC fall semester lead funding applications are due this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions, please reach out to us as soon as possible. We know this is a new process, so we're trying to be as accommodating as possible to all the new questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Clear. Senator Rises.
Yeah, sorry, there's a bunch, but I'll drop you in the Slack. Passover is this weekend for all the Jews in the house, but anybody can come to Seder, which is at Hillel at 6. And I would love to see you guys there. It's free for students. The food's delicious. On next Tuesday.
RSVP on Facebook for Hillel Seder so they know how much food to make. Yeah.
You should RSVP. It's the kind of thing to do. On Tuesday, April 3rd, so that's next Tuesday at the Athens Community Center, there's going to be a forum for the two candidates who are running for Congress, the two Democrats who are running to represent District 15. Again, I'll put it all in the Slack. International Street Fair is next Saturday. It's this big event ISU puts on. It's awesome. You should definitely come to that. What time? Oh, yeah, trying to be brief. It's 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's located on between University Terrace and Court Street. I'm sure there's more information available wherever you get your information. Also on that day from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., so you can go straight from one to the other, there is a session at there's a session at the Athens Historical Society about voter information, and this isn't just one of those know your rights things. This is the ins and outs of how to register voters, and it's with a woman from some big voter rights group, and she's going to be coming. She knows about getting high school students registered to vote and incarcerated folks registered to vote. But she knows her stuff, and so she's coming especially here for that. And then the following Saturday, April 14th, from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon, a woman from the Ohio Coalition Against Gun Violence named Amanda Lynch will be at Donkey Coffee to talk about what Ohio's current gun laws are and how they could be better potentially. And then also on that day, sorry, I know it's a lot actually, that evening, that's Saturday evening, April 14th, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., it always runs late, is Shawnee, Ohio's second Saturday event. And it's my favorite thing ever, and it's so much fun. Keep your fingers crossed for good weather. I'll put it all in the Slack.
You can put it in the Slack. Could you send me those? I can.
Yes, I can do that.
Are there any other announcements on this side of the room? Senator Ayers.
So I owe you all a huge and emphatic thank you. So yesterday we had.
Pardon me.
Yesterday we had one of our Friday events at Athens Public Library. We were able to give out 65 LGBT-friendly kids books for 3 people. Some of them went to local public schools and then kids living at home. And then we donated a set to the library. That event was awesome. It was really important to me, and just that you gave us the money to do that was really, I appreciate it. And then a huge shout out to Sarah for coming to read and hanging out with the kids. She's really probably better than I was, if you can imagine her knowledge. I swear when I make crafts, so probably not good to have your own children, but whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys. That was really, meant a lot to me, so thanks.
Any announcements on this side of the room? Senator Iliopoulos.
All right, I just wanted to quickly mention that our university's wonderful ROTC program, we just awarded the McCarthy Award, which is given for the top 8 university programs in the nation. So our school is ranked 8th in the nation among the thousands of university ROTC programs.
And you're first in the region, correct? I heard that.
First in the region, so like Ohio.
Out of 275 ROTCs. Senator Miller.
Hi everyone. So there's an election coming up soon. It's not Student Senate law. It's the primary for all of the cool positions that are going to be up for election in November. And the voter registration deadline is April 9th. So you should all register to vote at your Athens address if you're not. And then the very next day, April 10th, you should go to the Athens County Board of Elections. That's where Pumpkin is, and early vote for governor and secretary of state and Congress and state rep and all those really cool, awesome positions.
Ooh, Senator Gearing.
Okay, so I know everybody's mom's coming next weekend, and you're really, really freaking out about where to take her. And so I have your solution. There is a track meet. I will be there. My mom will be there, and then you can go. I can't say we're going to go to the bars, but you could go, and maybe my mom will be there. But yeah, there's a track meet next weekend.
Well, that's still not your track meet.
Thank you.
I will not be there.
That's a shame.
I wanted Director Swansky.
Just a reminder, Senate's been asked to participate in Active Beautification Day. That's on April 22nd. We need 20 project leaders. I know some of you have already filled out the form that I sent out, but there's an info session on April 13th at 4:30. That's a Friday. The room hasn't been determined yet, but I'll send out another email. And I just have a sign up, so if you've already signed up on the Google form, still write your name, and if you're interested, just feel free to write your name.
Can you comment that another text?
Not yet, because it's not my form, but I'll ask.
Any other announcements on this side of the room? Commissioner Randall.
Hi, the Environmental Justice Summit is next week. I'm so excited. My vice commissioners and I have worked so hard, as well as GSS and Sierra Club. So please come to our events. We're hoping to start yard sometime tomorrow, Friday. We have an event Tuesday night, sponsored or whoever by Kelly Lecture Series. Elizabeth Colbert's coming. She's a fantastic author. Any of you that have read The Sixth Extinction, it's amazing. Wednesday, we're going to have a local food fair, which is free food, so you should come. Some baker, third floor. And also, we're having a single film series that night. So I will not be attending next week. I know you all would love to see a Senate help me, but have to stay here, I'm sorry. And Thursday evening at 6, we're going to have a panel of community activists for environmental justice. And just be pizza.
And can you send everything?
Yes, I can send all that.
Commissioner Burke.
I didn't send you graphic in the Slack because I like better, but take out your night on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday there's conference style events where you can talk and engage about sexual assault awareness. And then on Thursday, there's a march and it'll start Baker. There's lots of cool stuff happening. It'd be really great for everyone to come out in solidarity for Take Back the Night. But I will send it to myself for you.
Thank you. Senator Thomas.
I just wanted to flip back people before the vote Senator Miller and say that in addition to voting at the board of elections, if you don't know where you're registered, which you have to do if you've changed addresses, you can also register at the board of elections so you get to see public TV credits instead of just one.
And there are forms in the Senate office on John's desk, correct? But there's no power, just John. Are there any other announcements on this side of the room? Historian Paredes.
Hi, so May 11th is going to be Armory Day for Athens City. I know it's right after finals, but some people have research or internships in Athens, and some students do stay over the summer or for the first part. So spread around, we'll be making periodic updates, and when it gets closer, I'll put the Slack. But May 11th at 11 a.m., Mayor Patterson will be commemorating people that served in the Armory, as well as who have served and perished in World War I. So it's a really cool event happening. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Vice President Schneider.
Okay, I'm gonna make an announcement that everyone hates to hear, but I love philanthropy. So, High Burger Fry is gonna be happening tomorrow.
Say it again, what?
High Burger Fry. It's $5 all you can eat. Pies, burgers, and fries. Wild. So it's 5 to 8. If you want a ticket, you can let me know. I know but it's to help fight childhood illiteracy one bite at a time.
She'll put that in the Slack as well. We'll move on. Would the Chief of Staff please call the roll?
President Lama.
Present.
Vice President Schneider.
Present.
Treasurer Woods.
Present.
Commissioner Simcoe.
Present.
Senator Seco.
Present.
Senator Hipwell.
Present.
Senator Graber.
Proxy.
Senator Owens.
President.
Senator Rises.
Present.
Senator Torna. Present. Senator DeVille. Proxy. Senator Holbrook. Senator Madison. Senator Canline.
Present.
Commissioner Evans. Senator Jones. Senator Ashley. Commissioner Romlo.
Present.
Commissioner Lamone.
Present.
Commissioner Puku. Senator Hartman.
Present.
Senator Rain.
Present.
Senator Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Schnook. Senator Harris. Senator Knapp.
Present.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Senator Hajabandi. Senator Zimmerman.
Present.
Senator Soto Diaz.
Present.
Commissioner Freight. Senator Myers.
Present.
Senator Hardy. Senator Baker.
Present.
Senator Adams. Senator Kemper. Commissioner Fillinger. Commissioner Lundy Morris.
Present.
Senator Sloat.
Present.
Senator Jackson. Senator Jones. Senator Sponhauer. Senator Holton. Senator Plotz. Commissioner Harder.
Present.
Senator Funey. Senator Eliopoulos. Senator Cromwell. Senator Miller.
Here.
Senator Deering.
Present.
Commissioner Burke.
Present.
Senator Hurd. Senator Thomas. Senator Kiefer. Commissioner Clear.
Present.
Senator Kelly. Senator Williams. And Report Morash.
Moving on. Thank you. Here we go. Additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Oh, I do have something, sorry. Bills, we only have one bill, 20-minute discussion. a minute and a half per sponsor, a minute per speaker, 30 minutes for 30 seconds per direct response. Budgets, 5 minutes each of discussion. Do I have a motion on this debate rules? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of those special debate rules, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Debate rules are adopted. Moving forward with the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Yes. Yes, we did. No one was there to speak out. You can. Yeah, but there's a motion on the floor though. All those in favor of the previous meeting minutes, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are adopted. You have 3 minutes if you want to use it.
Oh, it's a question to follow up, but do we still promote ourselves in the slope we expect?
Yes, we do.
Can we not do that anymore?
What's that?
Can we not do
That is a state mandate. It is a law that we do not. It's not a law that we have to promote it, but it is a law. When I say we, I'm just using we very vaguely. But it is a state law that all Ohio universities are smoke-free buildings. You have a specific
So sorry, part of this has.
No, go ahead.
What's the point of saying we're gonna be smoke-free campus when I literally see people do it multiple times?
That has been something, when I was at the University of Akron and their Senate, that is something that we talked about a lot. It's everyone's duty to say, stop. There is no smoking police. I have said it once to someone only because they were being obnoxious, and I never do it again. Just because of the looks I received. But that is something that I would definitely say. We never had to come, well, it was a platform point, but we kind of got nowhere with that when talking with the administration. But I definitely think it's something to strengthen and to say there should be reporting guidelines. There is a reporting mechanism for smoking hot zones. There is a phone number you can text. I don't know.
Hot zones have hot zones.
Hot zone. I'm sure if there's a hot zone, it's also called a hot zone.
That's if people are smoking.
Yeah. Yes, correct. So that is the reporting tool, but you are right.
What is this tool? Because I can tell you like 3 different spots.
There's a phone number you can text, and supposedly someone will go around and do something. I don't really, quite frankly, I do not know. I think everything through the health and safety office on campus, so that we can chat and I can put you in contact. Yeah, go ahead.
Anne Addington, who works in health promotion, she's the one that's in charge of the recovery community and the other drugs on campus and everything but alcohol. She's in charge of. And she was the one that was doing the initiative. So if we were seeing spots on campus where people are smoking, she would be the person to report it to. And they'll try to put up signs and try they have smoke-free ambassadors that were walking around trying to tell people. I think what most people think is that people don't know that we're smoke-free. It's really uncomfortable in front of another person who's smoking.
I would argue with that. I feel like everyone knows that this is supposed to be a smoke-free campus. We've got signs. I've learned about it on tours. Everybody says that.
So people are, so new students especially are getting it on tour, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I got it on tours and walk around the building and someone just put out a cigarette. So yeah.
But Anne would be the person who's trying to coordinate that on campus, so she can.
I think there's a direct response from 2 people, just quickly, Senator Ayers.
So is there a smoking cessation program here? Is it like, I've never heard about it.
The same person's in charge of it. It's through the health promotion office, campus involvement center.
Yes, definitely. An at-large group or.
So that's a much better solution. That's gonna save some jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
There are also whispers that has been introduced of a city council member who's going to introduce a provision that would make it so that in the city of Athens would buy tobacco products under the age of 21. Which is a thing. I mean, we know how well that works when it comes to alcohol, am I right? But it's a step.
Anyway, moving forward, there's no old business. We have new business. And we have a Senate bill, Senate Bill 171820, a bill denouncing Ohio House Bill 565, titled "A Bill Regarding the Abolition of Abortion." Whereas abortion,
Suspend the reading.
primary sponsor, Senator Knamler.
Hi. So I don't really talk much, but this is pretty near and dear to my heart. I'm a second-year medical student, and I hope to be able to do it today. I really hope that you support this. We worked hard on it, and the House Bill 565 is reprehensible. To be honest, I think all women, we should respect the autonomy of any woman, whether or not she's pregnant. There's no exclusions in this bill for women who are raped in terms of incest or to save the life of a mother. So as someone who's going to be in a position that would absolutely deter me from practicing in this state, I would be much better off elsewhere. I mean, this literally means like somebody can be hemorrhaging on your table, and if they're pregnant, you can't be in pregnancy if it has hemorrhaging or something. So there's so many reasons why this is totally not okay. If you are very anti-choice, the best thing that you can do is advocate for contraception, because that indicates the reduction in abortion that we've seen in the last 30 years. I'm happy to discuss this further, to directly respond to anybody. I'm very versed on this topic, but this is extremely dangerous legislation. It's harmful to physicians, patients. So I guess if you don't care about anything else, it's a waste of your money. A lot of taxpayer dollars are spent on elimination. Bills like this that never pass, they always fail. And probably the most concerning thing is that it is sometimes a vessel to something more serious, maybe to make it to the Supreme Court, or maybe to make other legislation that is also anti-woman and anti-choice seem not as bad. So obviously, 565 is bad, but anytime you see legislation like this, you should care about it. You care about your sisters, your moms, your girlfriends, your wives, your friends. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, friends.
Vice President Schneider.
I echo everything Erica has said. She knows a ton about this, and if anybody has more questions, she can answer literally everything. I'd also like to point out that this bill is extremely unconstitutional. The debate has already been had years and years ago, so I reserve the balance of my time.
Thank you. Senator Sloat.
So she cannot be here today, so I have a message to go from her. Senator Sloat said, "I am appalled by the creation of House Bill 565, which not only takes away women's right to choose what is best for their own body, but further takes away the agency of healthcare providers to make the best decisions for the health and well-being of their patients. As a firm advocate for reproductive rights, I hope that the Senate joins us in condemning this harmful bill and continuing to educate students on ways to best care for their own bodies and sexual health. Our constituents and their rights should be our first priorities as representatives of the student. I reserve the balance of Senator Sloat's time.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans.
I echo everything what you said. And really, Erica, was fantastic for working with you. Super knowledgeable, I mean, you're fantastic with my if you do have any questions, I need to burden you with them, but she'll answer as our Vice President Schneider said, literally anything. So I really do hope you can.
Historian Paredes.
I will keep pushing the point that she is very intelligent and will answer any of your questions you may have, so really use her as a resource. One of my major arguments for this bill is that Governor Kasich vetoed the heartbeat bill and denounces this current bill. Even though Governor Kasich has a track record of being problematic for women's rights, he has said that this is unconstitutional and violates the rights of women, as well as being unconstitutional. Other pro-life organizations in Ohio have denounced this bill as being unconstitutional. It is my firm belief that there's a difference between being pro-birth and pro-life. If you are pro-life, you believe in the sustenance and subsidies of women who give birth to children, ensuring those children and families have futures. Pro-birthers believe in solely giving birth to the fetus, doesn't matter if it has a genetic defect, if it dies immediately after birth, or if the mother dies, or any other side of repercussions post pro-birth. That is my firm belief, and you can debate me all you want on that, but I honestly think that there's a difference between being pro-life and pro-birth. Myself as being pro-choice. Now, going further, Senator Command Line made a fantastic point about the impacts on the medical community. I read the NPR article that we referenced within one of the appendixes, and I also read the entire bill, and there's a provision that considers a fetus an unborn human if it has a heartbeat, and that means that a medical professional that is caught performing an abortion can be put in life in prison or put on the death penalty, depending on the case. It does waste our money in terms of taxes, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Thank you. Commissioner Burke.
I echo what everyone else has said. I'm appalled at this bill, and I think it's disgusting that mostly male Senate is going to try to take away the rights of women. I reserve the balance.
Thank you. Commissioner Lundy Morris. Thank you. Senator Funi.
Due to everything everyone said, I also would like to point out the disproportionality of this bill. What it does is it targets especially women who are unable to access correct parental care if they do have a child and if they do recover. That's also why people have abortions, because if you get pregnant accidentally and you're not this is a child, you should be bringing a child into the world and paying for health. So I'd like to point out that this disproportionately affects women who are in low communities, disproportionately to rich Latin communities, and again, due to everything.
Thank you. Senator Adams.
The joys of getting the last thing to say, absolutely nothing new. I do everything, I echo everything everyone said. This is just bad public policy. It's more like it's a waste of tax dollars. It's unconstitutional. And I think it's our duty as an elected body to make our voices heard and fight against it.
Now that we made it through all the sponsors, is there any discussion on this resolution, on this bill? Is Director Ventresca here? Is there any? Okay, Senator Smith, you can keep your names raised and I'll write it down. And I'll point at you when I got you. Go ahead.
I'll start off by saying I completely agree with the contents of this bill, and the bill has been introduced in the State House is reprehensible, especially in the scrutiny of it. It's really ridiculous in my own views. But I think we all know I was like play devil's advocate, and I just think it's worth us considering like what the role of this body should be on campus, and if we're going to condemn like horrible public policy, but both as a state or high level federal government, and argue it's already pretty long. We could sit here for years then. And I think it's also worth considering, while we might all fully agree with this, like, the vote that this body will produce will probably not be in line with necessarily what the constituents of the school need. Not to say that we shouldn't support this, and I agree that like this is, I agree we should condemn this because it's horrible, but I think we should also just consider generally like what the role of students actually be. And if you want to criticize public policy like that, that's fine, but maybe we should be doing that for all realms of public policy to them. I just think that's something we should do.
Okay, thank you. Senator Plotz.
I want to start off by echoing that this isn't necessarily something that we need to be focusing on. There's a lot of problems for us to have to be on campus. We don't need to be looking at these big school-wide things. But I don't think this is necessarily a question about women's rights. It's about the rights of the people that can't speak up, so we have to speak up for them. I'm not looking to get into a huge discussion about it because I have a feeling it's maybe it's everyone else, but I do just want to make my opinion clear at least before
So keep your hands up. We'll go to Senator Jackson. Resident side.
I'm just a little confused here. So we're voting on a bill to say that we don't support a bill in a different side.
So I would just, point of information, this is not the first time this Senate body, and not the first time this Senate as a institution on this campus has voted to denounce something that has happened in another governmental organization. This is not new, we've done it twice this semester. So, yes, you are correct. This is a bill denouncing a bill in the Ohio State House. So,
Like announce, like just saying, we don't approve, but we can't do anything about it.
we have the power of voice. That's what we have. And that's with everything we do. We can pass a bill telling Ohio University they need to do better on sexual assault prevention, but at the end of the day, all they have to do is listen. They don't have to do anything. Nothing that we do externally is binding. The only things that are binding are us approving our own budgets. So we've already set a precedent. The notion that we shouldn't be voting on this at all because, like, why? We've already set a precedent that we vote on things that happen in other organizations. We are allowed to denounce things. It's happened for years. If you would have seen what Senate was 4 years ago, you would be extremely shocked. But we do it. It's a thing. But yes, if you have any other, you have a minute left, 30 seconds left on your time if you want to use that.
I was just a little confused. I'll clear it up now.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
You can directly respond. Yeah.
Okay. To both of you, I'd like to directly respond to you first. Thank you.
Senator
for
Smith, right?
Yeah, thank you for your comment. I do think that this is important. I think we should vote on things like this, especially because we're speaking to our constituency of sexually active people. And also, there's a reason the entire school isn't here voting on it because we were elected to speak with people. So I guess at most we could like send a Walters survey and see what the constituency think about it. But you are here representing them, so you vote all the time on things that probably everybody would do.
Sorry, that was the 30 seconds, but you can continue.
Can I directly respond?
Yes.
Okay. To directly respond to you, I respect your opinion about like weekends and all of that. But this bill, I think, is special. Maybe hopefully it will be to you because there's no exceptions for rape, incest, or life of the mother. So if you believe that life begins at conception,
yeah.
Okay. Then you also believe the mother is living person too.
Right.
So I think in these situations, you have to make a choice about which life is more valuable. And that puts physicians in a really tough spot, especially when legislation like this can make it partial by law. It makes it almost impossible to practice medicine in these situations. Or in situations where you might have like a fetal anomaly, which is fetus developed without lungs, or kidneys not compatible with life. In those situations, it's not a viable pregnancy. You have to consider that too. And so maybe this bill would be a little bit different to that homes, considering the mother as a person too.
You can directly respond to whose point.
What you mentioned about the person girl.
30 seconds.
This was talked about, but I myself as a female, as a sexually active person, if I fall pregnant, I would like the ability to build a promotion as what I think. This is important specifically in relation to students because this doesn't affect non-students, this affects every single individual in Ohio. So it has the ability to be impregnated, and thus I do believe it is extremely important for us to talk about the same way that we have a conversation about textbooks. They are extremely important to us as students, in addition to us as individuals in Ohio.
Swift there, sorry. If you do want to speak still, please put your things up and I'll point at you when I have you down. But I have Commissioner Romlo for a minute to speak. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Coming back to the constituency, you have to recognize that over half of our population on campus are women, and whether if they believe this should go past or not, their lives could be at risk because of this bill. So I just want to put that out there as well.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller?
I just want to reiterate the point that if you don't support this, you are killing women. You are killing, no, you are. It sounds extreme, but there is easily accessible research about what happens when women do not have access to safe and legal abortion. There's these, you can look at women whose lives are endangered by their pregnancies. And also it's, there's a lot of talk about how this doesn't even have exceptions for. It's none of our business why a woman needs an abortion. It is none of our business if that pregnancy results of incest or of rape. It is our business that she wants access to safe medical care. End of story, period, over and out. And also, as for devil's advocacy, devil's advocates prop up the devil, so stop freaking advocating for them. I reserve that for my time.
Thank you. I know Vice President Schneider would like to directly respond to what Commissioner Miller had to say.
Just jumping on a little bit, I know it can sound wild to say that this is killing women, but actually this would make any abortion a homicide in the state of Ohio, which is punishable by life in prison or death penalty. So, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Chief of Staff Schlosser.
So the argument that this body shouldn't be taking a stance on an issue like this is kind of silly in my opinion. This body's taken plenty of stances throughout the years regarding a lot of issues, international issues. I found out that this body's taken stances on a lot of wars. Back in the 90s, they took a stance on.
For the basis of time,
Okay.
I've already mentioned that, so please make
All
sure to move on.
That's all that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
That this body is taking stances
Sorry,
on many.
it's so late and we do.
All right, go ahead.
But everyone here's what you're saying. Totally agree. Director Paredes, Historian Paredes.
So for people who have an issue with this bill, I really want to push the idea that Senate should not be stigmatized as a liberal conspiracy or some kind of like reptilian force trying to overcome your rights as a consequence. I'm not making fun of someone. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm seriously making the fact that I don't want Senate to have that stigma on it. If people care about issues of their constituency when it comes to liberal ideas, centrist ideas, or conservative ideas, I really push everyone, whether it's gun control or women's rights or environmental affairs, please draft bills, start commissions, get more involved with constituency, and start doing things. This way bills like this aren't so controversial. I think that I welcome conservative views, I welcome liberal views. We have a diverse ticket running for the next student senate election with conservatives and liberals. So please, if you care about ideas that are outside of this realm of politics, start doing your job and start making bills. I was really bouncing my phone.
Anyone directly responding to that comment? Okay, Senator Ayers.
So, here's the deal. Let's get rid of all politics and think about this and just hear me out. So I represent a community that is statistically much more likely to be victims of sexual assault. As a victim of sexual assault, if I had not had access to this type of healthcare, I would most likely not be able to be in college right now. My life would have been absolutely unequivocally changed. Can't even express to you how much. It would have been extremely unfair, the situation I was put in. So you have to consider not just from a political standpoint or a women's right to choose or anything like that, but just the situation. You sometimes have no idea. I'm guessing that I just shocked about 90% of people in this room. So you have to consider it from that perspective, from possibly the only person in here who has experience. I don't want to exclude anyone or so, think about it that way, maybe. Thanks.
Thank you. Just to remind everyone, we have about 5 minutes left of debate for this. Moving on, and we are following the Slack model, so if you have talked once, you're Slack, sorry. I have you in another column, so that's why it might take a minute. Commissioner Evans.
I just wanted to remind everybody that this isn't pro-abortion, it's pro-choice. It leaves room for women to decide that they want to carry out the pregnancy, even if it isn't compatible. That's totally up to the women. It's about the choice. It's not forcing anybody to do such one thing. And if this does pass in whatever body has to vote on it, that takes that choice away. It doesn't and it forces everybody to align with one way of thinking. That's not how everybody, Parker was just saying that everybody doesn't align with one form of thinking, so why are we trying to force that issue?
Thank you. Commissioner Ramon.
I just think I think if we thought about the way we talk about this and listen to each other a little bit more, who do we have to talk about this with? when we listen to conservatives talk about abortion, liberals talk about abortion, we need to get on the screaming end of the community. Because there's this piece of garbage as a result of screaming on one.
The bill itself, 565.
565. No, 565.
Commissioner Ramon, for the record, means that Ohio House Bill 565 is a piece of garbage, not the Senate.
Hashtag we love matter.
Correct. Okay, I have down Senator Cisco. Seco, I'm sorry. Cisco.
All right, so
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna ask everybody, can we try something new and leave our political bias at the door? It's not our job to push the liberal agenda, the conservative agenda, it's our job to come represent our constituents and their agenda. So I'm gonna ask that because I've noticed this a lot lately in the Senate, people are just, not singling anybody out. There's some people that push this agenda, some people that push a different agenda. Again, our job is to represent our constituents and make the best choices for Ohio University and not any party.
Secondary person, Senator Plotz.
Since this meeting started, not like I was talking about this bill in particular, but since the meeting started, there have been 9,000 children worldwide killed due to abortions. And since 1980, there's been 1.5 billion. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that somebody that's pro-life is going to be for killing women. So.
You may, but be mindful of the quorum in your 30 seconds.
Just to clarify your point, I just, as I focus on that piece too.
You can.
Because, well, so in about the last 2 hours, we've had 9,000 in that note. Since 1980, 1.5 billion. So that can go to earlier, I was kind of singled out. Is that what that was? And then earlier before that, you mentioned how there are complications from birth. And so the numbers total development, not my apologies. But so there can be complications during development, and those complications, those numbers are not going to be built into my
Thank you. Senator Miller.
I would like to directly respond
Go ahead.
to Senator Plotz. Can we have the source to that data, please?
Oh, this is that way then.
Great. Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting.
For the record, too.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes.
Sir? I have Commissioner Romlo, and I have Senator Smith and Senator Keenan. Go ahead.
I also want to bring up the point that even if this bill passed, abortions are still going to happen. Whether it's the alleyways, cult hangers, and unsafe, unregulated, it's still going to happen either way. Whether we had the option to do it safely or very harmful to both the mother and the child. And I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. That's still a possibility. Just because if this bill passed, does not mean we stop abortions. So I'll put it out there.
That's the end of our debate. We do have 3 people that were left to speak. If I hear a motion. I'm sorry, what was the motion? Allowing the speakers left on the list to speak. Okay. There's been a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Let the record reflect there are 4 noes, abstentions. None. Debate is extended. So we have 3 speakers. Historian Paredes, you may begin.
The issue with this is choice and personal liberties and freedom. If we're so concerned about an overreaching government that dictates what we can and can't do, and we want more freedom, why are we trying to allow this House bill to go without any denouncement to restrict the freedoms of American citizens? This isn't the 1950s or the 1800s, where women are still in the limbs of a strong male. We live in an age where we're moving forward and progressing. So we have to start coping with the times and allowing those freedoms to be extended to disenfranchised people that, quite frankly, still don't have the same equal opportunities today. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Thank you. Senator Camanlo.
Hi, yeah, so I guess just a couple more things that I want to add. I don't know if this is your response or what, but we have like the highest maternal mortality rate in developed countries. It's really sad. Like during a pregnancy term is 14 times more risky than actually a first trimester abortion. So there is other people here to consider. And just I understand everybody's not going to agree about this issue, but this is not a battle to fight. I mean, the right to life physicians will support something like this. Most of them will not, because it inhibits your ability to practice medicine. Like, we're not even talking about abortion clinics right now. This is further past that. This is like saving the life of somebody in a hospital when something goes wrong with the pregnancy. And, even if we're never going to agree about when life begins at conception, I feel like if you just maybe read this a little bit closer, anybody just disagree, read it a little bit closer, you would see that this is not the battle that you're trying to win. It's just not. From a medicine standpoint, from the state, with the physician shortage, this is an opportunity for legislature to want to pass, because you push physicians out of your state. I mean, something like this came up a couple of years ago, and there were 16 physicians on the panel, and the legislators asked, would you leave this state if this was passed, and all 16 of them said yes. You cannot practice medicine.
Senator Smith, our last speaker.
I just want to reiterate to make sure I'm not a devil or condemning the House bill in the State House. I just want to bring the point out that I know we have established precedent of condemning certain public policy, but I think usually I actually stand against that to some extent. In part because, like you point out, the Senate of past years has spent a lot of the time that to the detriment of the student body when they should be focusing on their issues. And I'm not saying that's what we're doing here, but I'm saying that if we increasingly spend more time addressing these sorts of things, we're going to sacrifice time to spend much better. That being said, I also think if we are going to take some of our public policy, then perhaps in Y91 where it says where this bill will be sent to, we should consider sending also to Representative Jay Edwards.
Oh, it is.
It's in the bill.
It is.
The format of this bill is unique in that the resolve clauses that say who they should be sent to have like kind of reasons why.
Okay.
So there are about 30 people listening to this bill who should receive it.
Okay.
Yes. Representative Edwards will most definitely receive this bill. So thank you for that. And that might be a good conversation to bring up if the Governmental Affairs Commission should continue as a commission, since they are our public policy arm. So that's a good conversation that we can have. But since we have run out of time, do I have a motion on the floor?
Move to vote.
Yes.
So if I want to amend something, because Chief of Staff Schloss and I were talking about.
We've already amended, we've talked, and it will be fixed. The resolve process. Yeah, cool.
Just making sure.
Yep. The primary sponsor on it fixed it, but it's not on that edition. It's just format. Yep.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on Senate Bill
20.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Let the record reflect there's one no vote. Abstentions? Let the record reflect there are 3 abstentions. 4? Can we please high? Please raise them high. Thank you. 4 abstentions. The bill has passed. Okay, moving on to Senate Resolution, just for transparency's sake, Senate Resolution 1718-153 was tabled indefinitely by the primary sponsor.
No, it's not that one.
Oh, so 58?
No, it's 57.
So Senate Resolution 1718-153, a resolution to purchase food for the Environmental Justice Summit. Whereas primary sponsor, Chairperson Ayers. Chairperson.
Thank God for budgets. Let's debate these. So this is for the Environmental Justice Summit, asking for food, for the other events. This one is particularly for April 4th, at 11 a.m. If you want to pass this, you want to eat some food, there you go. Great to me, I'm sure we might have some comments later. Upon reviewing budget application, the figure forms met all criteria for approval and
Thank you. You deserve. Thank you. Vice Chairperson Hippo.
I agree with everything you said, and I would like to do my time.
Commissioner Romero.
Hello, everyone. So this will be an awesome event. Super excited. So a lot of our vendors are actually donating to us, which is greatly appreciated. Our few chickens will be there to donate 50 samples. Each of these kind of like rows resemble like 50 samples. So this is going to be a lot of people. It's sustainable. It's local. It's great. So I will hope to see all of you next Wednesday between 11 and 1.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this resolution? It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 153. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. And just as a reminder, unless you're proxying for someone, vice commissioners do not have a voting right within the Senate. Moving on to Senate Resolution 1718-154, a resolution to purchase Senate office supplies. Whereas, Chairperson Ayers.
real quick, John, is this the one with the editing copy?
Oh, yeah, this is the one,
I
yeah.
can't read it, I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
It should be like 27.
it was like $27, but like there was a deal going on. So that's why like we were
Okay,
this now.
so this says 57, but it isn't.
We don't need
It was
to.
originally 57, but John got us a deal because of John. So it's like 27.99 instead, so I'm guessing you guys are okay with that.
Just a
If
point
not-
of order. This resolution cannot pass because it cannot be friendly.
You can't find the budgets, but if you allocate more money than you need for it.
Yeah.
In order to raise the paper.
It can pass, they're just not gonna spend that much, and even if we need paper regardless, so even if the price of the deal goes away, we'd still have to get paper regardless, and that would be the price, so just keep that in mind.
So we can go on with this.
If the clerk of court is fine. She's fine. She's fine with it. Let the record reflect. But continue, Chairperson Ayers.
So this is for paper for the office. It's time again to order paper. We haven't bought it since early October, so John isn't just like making the paper. Tons of people are using this for all kinds of summer things. So we pass this. Upon reviewing the budget application, we can enforce it has met all criteria outlined for approval, and I would say the balance of the time.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson Hippo.
I agree with everything you said, paper, so I will like to,
New paper for the new printer, and reserve lots of my time.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
No.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 154. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. Senate Resolution 1718-155, a resolution to purchase tickets for the leadership gala. Chairperson Ayers.
So this is for 8 tickets for the leadership gala. This is a cool event. Usually Senate or people in Senate are nominated, right? So guessing that this year is different because we're all awesome. So pass this and on reviewing the budget application, the premium points that is met all criteria outlined for approval, and I reserve the balance of the time.
For this, oh, I'm sorry. Vice Chairperson Hippo.
I agree with everything you said again, and I would like to do it.
Yeah, so typically, this is a two census. First, seniors aren't available to get these 8 tickets. And then after seniors, you should get the whole lot. I'm pretty sure that's what President Obama.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
Yep. I reserve lots of my time.
Discussion, like Chief of Staff Schlosser said, the tickets are primarily for the seniors, since it is their last time they could ever be able to go to this event. The people who alert myself after the meeting, seniors, come up to me afterwards. If you want a ticket, do so. We are canceling Senate for that night. It's a tradition that we do so, so you don't have anywhere to be, so you don't have to bother looking at your calendar. So the first date to come up to me will get a seat. And tables are not reservable this year, so we'll just have to run for a table. And those who got nominated have a seat. Well, those who get an award have a seat, have their own ticket. And I reserve the balance of my time. Is there any other discussion on this resolution? It depends on how many seniors are. The 18th of this month, of next month. I heard a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on this resolution. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. Senate Resolution 1718-156, a resolution to purchase reusable bags. Chairperson Ayers.
So this is asking for 2,000 of the bags you saw earlier during the presentation. There are already 4,000 or 2,000 from culinary housing services, and then Lydia and her people are waiting on confirmation for another 2,000 from track. Bags look pretty good, they're pretty sturdy. Spent a lot of time through email with that guy. It was very intense. Like, I didn't know reusable bags was such a industry. I was just surprised. Upon reviewing the budget application, the committee reports that these met all criteria outlined for approval and are reserved without.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson Pipwell. Are you reserving, yielding to? Commissioner Rowe.
Hello everyone again. So based on our presentation earlier, this is kind of very important. This has happened before, and all first years and incoming students in the fall semester do receive reusable bags. However, it has not been around for the past couple years. I think it's really important, and we have had great funding already. We got $2,200 from culinary, $2,200 from housing, and we're still waiting on the confirmation from track. If not, we're going to reach out to other orgs on campus. So this is great. This is going to be really exciting. We're going to get 8,800 bags, so this is going to be surplus, and that will go back to markets or other events. So,
thank you. By a show of hands, who would like to participate in the discussion for this resolution? Show of hands. Okay, quick, go ahead. Questions, go ahead. Commissioner
Are you guys going to, like, with these bags, are we going to tell the students, the freshmen or beginners to the first year, like, hey, just so you know, 5 cents off, little deal?
Yes, so we're advertising this initiative on our Use Sustainable tab on our Senate's website, but also we're going to hopefully put it in the RA's kind of blurb at the beginning of the year. We are going to pass them out. Those who are living in residence halls next year, we're going to pass them out. And I don't know if everyone remembers their first day at OU, and you go into your t-shirt or whatever you got, and that's years. Yeah, that's.
Thank you. I know there's a Senator X.
It's just not a quick comment, and I know that this is also my big one, which is kind of ironic, but can we do like a little tiny, like, in the bag, like, telling them that information?
Yeah, but I know it's kind of like
it's just a
newspaper.
Right, I know. As soon as I thought about that,
I think it's important. I think overall we're probably going to see more from you, but fire is still up for discussion.
I know.
So that's a good point.
I do have a question. Is our logo going on this bag?
Yes, our logo's going to be on it. All sponsors will be on the bag, so we're promoting our sellers at Senate, showing tangible items that we do.
Chief Staff Schlosser.
The treasurer recite how much is not allocated for SMEC?
$5,747.49.
Thank you. Just so you all know what this quarterly for the budget. Any other? Senator Smith.
I should, I forget his name, but
Thanks.
he, I believe he said that the strings point, like, never use the bags for markets. I guess it's like, I know the idea, of course, but it's just not really concerned. Do you want to spend science money for something that's super probably like, well, you want to do it?
Yes, that's a great question, so how do you answer ask it? So Jacob has moved was actually his first year here, that was when they did the last reusable bag. And I was thinking about it, he's like, there was no education whatsoever, and it was in this bag, and they're like, okay, like, what do we do with this? What's the purpose of this? What we're going about this way, we're doing tabling at BSO, we're doing more tabling at the end of the semester at dining halls. Like, we want this to be an educational experience with the tangible item. So basically, education piece was missing last time, so now we're bringing it back with the education piece, with the initiative saying like, this is a good thing, please do use it appropriately.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Burke?
You guys have the artwork. You're still waiting for, I know, Alex Temple has reached out to me with all the parts. I understand they're work out with the lovers, so we're looking for a cool design for reworking.
If you have any ideas or know anyone that could submit a cool design, reach out. Any other discussion on this resolution? Commissioner Free?
Yeah, I know a lot of people were like on the abolition of plastic bags. I think we need to stop doing that, so we need to work on the 75% tax is enough. I think this is a step in getting rid of plastic bags overall in communities, so, yeah.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to vote on this resolution. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the resolution passes. Senate Resolution 1718-158, a resolution to purchase pizza for the candidate debate. Whereas, okay, Commissioner Ayers.
I like that the river pause where you want someone to stop. This is from Walter, my favorite person. He is an Alexis on the official thing. This was for the debate last night. Yeah. To encourage more people to attend, as the previous committee's attendance was good. Well, so yeah. Upon doing the budget application, the committee reports that it has met all criteria outlined for approval, and I reserve the balance of the time.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson Hipwell.
I also agree with that. And I will be with Alexis. Yeah, I know there's probably some discussion that it's Little Caesars. But this was brought to my attention. I didn't know we were going to do this until right as Walter sent it. Not saying we need Walter, but the turnout's obviously been super low. So this is like some kind of incentive, and he was not aware of the adamant for local business, although I do support that. I brought it up to him after it went through, but you will keep that in mind for next time. It's just the cheapest option.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Yes.
I think I just want to clarify so you guys understand like why there wasn't enough time for Walter to change the 105. So this was sort of an emergency application that we accepted late because Walter wanted to encourage people to attend the event and it was important to Senate. So we took it was Monday night and then this event was Tuesday. So by the time we got back to Walter that we're trying to use local vendors for things, it was already too late here on order. So that was, I just want to clarify why that happened.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Second. It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 158. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. For the sake of time, we will skip over commission reports. Commissioners, please send in your commission reports to the Assistant Chief of Staff. We skip over Senate committee reports, university committee reports. I do have a quick report. Please be active and engaging with the provost candidates. It is the second most important job on campus. We have private sessions that we can go to, that we can attend. Those times, dates are in Slack. Please like it so I know. Some of them are meals. I'm just quickly. But please make sure you come to those. Come to the open forums. I was the only student on one of the open forums the other day. I already know the candidates because I'm on the search committee. I've emailed my counterparts at all the universities that they've come from to receive feedback from their student body presidents. I would have to say that I received a fantastic review from the student body president of Auburn about Dr. Constance Ryland. She will be on campus next week. She's actually the award recipient of their Student Government Supporter of the Year award. They actually created that award for her. So I would just highly recommend, she's also the only woman candidate. So I would highly recommend everyone go see hers and the other two. And I would just remind everyone that tonight's meeting was personal and people did share personal stories. And that even though it is a public meeting and we have press here and we take minutes, I would remind everyone that personal stories are the personal stories of those who tell them. And you don't have the right to talk about their personal stories unless they say it's fine. So just be mindful of that. Also, I serve on many committees, as you all know, and one of the most important things that we talk about in committee is not singling out individuals for how they vote or why they say certain things. That's why I say there's only one person who voted no or there are 4 people abstained. I don't say who those people are. I think it's important to know that people will come to the meetings to know how their representatives vote. They'll watch the live stream, but it's important to know that people shouldn't be singling out people. I'm not saying it happens, but I'm just saying in the spirit of decorum and making sure that we have these exchange of ideas, that people shouldn't feel singled out for how they vote, but it should just be talked about as a whole. But being in a lot of committees where faculty tend to do that a lot, about how certain students feel about comments, I think it's important to note to you all as well the importance of respecting our peers. And if someone votes this certain way, they always speak up and they always let us know why they're doing so. So I think it's important to note that. And that is the end of my report.
Okay, so a while ago I talked about Senator of the Month, and so we didn't get to do anything for February, and March that flew by too. But I do have the winners for February and March. So February's winner is going to be Jordan Zimmerman. And then March's winner is going to be Nick Paredes. So you each win a $5 Starbucks gift card. I know it's not local, but that is what we have right now. We had some leftovers from the DC networking trip, and so that is what we want. Yes. Okay, anyways, moving on. So I know that we've talked about passing a gun control bill for a little bit now. People have been putting things in the Google Doc, but nothing has really happened. So what we did that was successful for the bill we passed today was we just set a time. Everyone came, gave their ideas, and then somebody was in charge of just organizing all those ideas. And I think that that was extremely productive. So I would encourage those interested in the gun control bill that are in that Slack channel to find time to meet. Next, I need to appoint our Bobcat Medal Award Committee. And so the Bobcat Medal Award goes to anyone in the Ohio University community. So it can be student, alumni, staff, anyone that we feel has done an honorable job or done something great for students or in their life.
A past recipient was Dr. Payne and Dr. Scutner, just to name a few, just throw that out.
And so the details about all of that are on Board Sync. Next, I just want to point out that Tia Heisel from Marketing Transportation Services reached out and thanked all the senators and commissioners that worked really hard on talking to students about transportation. And I think that's so awesome. She sent a huge long email about how great she thought their work was. So I'm going to print that out and post it on the board in the office so everyone can admire our senator's work. And then lastly, I want to thank everyone that kind of had a difference of opinion in our debates today. I think that that's so hard to say something that nobody else is going to say, and so I commend you on that. And then from the beginning of our meeting, I just want to remind everyone to be very respectful during presentations. I tried to post a picture of everyone on the laptops on that side. Sorry, that side. I don't know where the picture went. Somebody deleted it, so sorry I made you mad. So make sure that your laptops are down. We're engaging with the presenters. And then also make sure we're being respectful to each other when we speak. So if I say something and you don't agree with it, the next senator already left. But please do not motion the words F you across the room. It's just very inconsiderate, especially if you're a student leader trying to be professional. I reserve the balance of my time.
Treasurer Woods.
Okay, so a few things. DC didn't present tonight, but all the alumni stuff has been taken care of and has been all ironed out. So all this money, all those funds have been correctly allocated to the correct organizations. So next week when we present, it'll be about next year, what we did this year, and also the funds. So money for discretionary, so whether it be your discretionary for your personal commission, if you still have that left, or it's for a special event, please make sure you come and talk to me or Todd before you make these purchases. Just because it's discretionary and you don't really have to ask the whole body does not mean it's automatically approved. It's not a technical rule in the RMP, but the executive decided that with any discretionary purchases that with the concurrence of the treasurer and the chair and vice chair of the budget, they have to approve those purchases just to make sure we're not just buying willy-nilly and not spending things that the whole Senate would be okay with. And also, please, for any other purchases that you might have, I know things happen last minute and things are bouncing around, but please do not come up or email Todd or I and say, I need to purchase this right now, or we need pizza for this event in 2 hours. So it's really stressful for us. Neither of us usually ever have our P card on us. They're kept in our offices. And so it's just kind of a lot for us, for people too. So just please make sure you're planning that out ahead of time.
And sorry, on that. If you're planning an event and you email Zach or he's emailing you, please respond quickly or anything like that, because I know you've had some problems with that. So make sure everyone's just paying attention to your emails. Our numbers are also on our OrgSync portal on our profile, so you can find our cell phone numbers.
So the rest of the money, thank you, Lydia, tonight for bringing that back. Reusable bags, I really want to get rid of this money, but it doesn't look like we're going to get rid of all of it. There's still some money coming back from other events that didn't happen, or their full budget wasn't used, so that's going back into the reusable funds. So that $5,700 right now is going to be about lower by about $2,500 after tonight, but there's still a lot of money. So after talking with our advisors, we decided that we are going to use that for facelift for the office. So getting rid of the desk and getting tables, getting new chairs, getting new carpet, fixing the walls, whatever money we can. So if you have any ideas, please come talk to us. I'm going to start making the budget soon because we only have about 1 or 2 more meetings to get budgets through to actually be able to purchase stuff before the end of the year. I will also be talking to GSS to see about what money they might have left over to kind of bundle in as well, because that's also their office. To update, because like I said before, our money is different than SAC. It does not roll over, so whatever money we don't use, it goes back into the university and we never see it again. And as it stands now, we are not allocated between SAC and Senate enough money as students, and so we want to make sure that everything is being used. And that is all for my report besides the numbers. So in Senate total, we have $19,752.19 allocated but not yet spent. We have $14,004.07. Not allocated nor spent $5,747.49. In the SAC total, we have $203.60. Spot is $68.48, and then U fund we have $135.12. Those numbers are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge.
John? Yes. Who has to sign up for the human services? Yeah, who has to sign up?
who has the sign up sheet? There, okay, did everybody get a chance to,
I didn't.
okay, if you didn't get a chance, continue after the meeting. Did any of the staff have any comments? Alright, and that's the end of my report.
All right, so I'll report on Jenny as well, but I'll start with mine first. So I just want to remind everyone the collegiate experience was created to challenge your mind, challenge your lens, and broaden your views. So thank you everybody for the discussion. Thank you for being respectful during the discussion. And also thank you to Dan for really raising the point that we should continue to stay apolitical in this body, and to really support the needs and also what could affect Ohio University students moving forward. On behalf of Jenny, she wants to say thank you for those of you who've already taken the survey. There should have been a climate survey that was sent to you by Institutional Research. This covers a range of topics depending on which survey link you get, which is specific to your email. Please continue to take those if you haven't already. If you do take it, you get a code. You get like a free water bottle or a coffee mug or whatever you choose from the fourth floor baker. So please continue to do that because the responses are really great. They're really needed as well, and it will help the university position itself to best serve the students that it hosts here. Also, the Division of Student Affairs strategic plan is almost finalized. She just wanted to thank Nicole for serving on that group. And other than that, please be safe this weekend and go Bobcats.
Come back.
This is hurting me physically. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? We are adjourned.
From my understanding, yes.